The culture is absolutely...
The gut ain't running anymore! Calling both games.
Carolina is currently in the stage of their rebuild where they chose to try and read the directions in Pigeon. A hilariously awful situation that has somehow gotten even more hilariously awful. They tried to go after Deshaun Watson as well, but like most things that happen with the Panthers, they failed miserably. So what's the answer at QB? They certainly can't expect to trot Sam Darnold out there again and be taken seriously. Any guy they draft at the position would certainly be a project. Do they get desperate and throw shit for Jimmy Jesus to be in the same damn situation? Or do they just punt everything and finally free CMC from this hell? They did sign Johnny Hekker, so punting should be damn good for them at least. Extending DJ Moore and Dante Jackson and signing Matt Ioannidis, Bradley Bozeman, and Corey Littleton helps too. Somewhat.
The Carolina Panthers select Ikem Ekwonu, tackle, North Carolina State.
Carolina desperately needed offensive line help in this draft. I figured they'd have gone quarterback here, but when your blindside blocker is Cam Irving, you need all the aid you can get. Ekwonu probably has the most upside of any tackle in this draft, but he's relatively raw. He has plenty of size and strength to become a premium tackle in this league, but he'll need time to develop. Kinda tough to do when he'll be expected to be a day one starter. Even for his project status, he should be an immediate upgrade. That's depressing. My question though is at QB. They can't trot out Sam Darnold again, can they? Matt Corral did fall to them in the third round, but he needs time in his own right. They did try for Baker Mayfield, but with Cleveland having no leverage while demanding too much, the trade for him fell through. I think they may just wait for him to be cut. Welcome to the Last Chance Saloon. The Panthers are a team lining the bar. Matt Rhule, only here because of a huge contract, will try to figure out difficult tasks like running a sit and spin. Christian McCaffrey trying to temper his glass bones to make them able to withstand basic movements. And the greatest quarterback battle of our times. Sam Darnold and the freshly exiled Baker Mayfield. Just like the 2018 NFL Draft, Mayfield was chosen over Darnold. Quite ironic that their first game is against Cleveland, isn't it? Totally not nudged in the right direction by the NFL whatsoever. I hope they crush the Browns, but this is a team with an identity crisis. Can the offensive line block more than cheese? Will the defense be left to die like they were last season? Is Baker going to prove his haters wrong? Or will Matt Rhule fuck everything up? If he does so again, David Tepper won't be a happy man at all. Methinks he'll bring out the guillotine. Even with the teams that are choosing to blow it up and start from scratch, there is still plenty of intrigue with the NFC. So many teams desperate to win a championship or go far into January. And even more trying to make a name for themselves. The NFC East hasn't had a repeat champion in years. So I'm going to maintain that narrative and pick Philly to win it. The NFC North is still Green Bay's to lose, but they're slowly losing grip on their stronghold. The NFC South has a few suitors, but the Bucs are still too loaded to really fail unless they get injured to hell and back. The NFC West? Huge question mark, but I think the Rams are still the team to beat. But what about the wild cards? It's tough to choose, there are so many good options here. In this case, I'm choosing the Niners, Saints, and Vikings. Yes, the Vikings. I think people are sleeping on them. Then again, we've said this about them before, only for them to fall apart. Sorry about that, Minnesota. The revenge game. It's something the exiled and scorned dream of from the moment they're cast off. This is Baker Mayfield's time. A chance to prove Cleveland wrong. It certainly wasn't in the first half. It was a baker's dozen of bad throws and unforced errors. Fortunately, the same thing happened with Jacoby Brissett under center for the Browns, so it wasn't too far out of reach. Not with Christian McCaffrey doing his best to bail the Panthers out of certain doom. Even then, things looked bleak. Down 20-7 with Matt Rhule doing his best imitation of a saboteur, there needed to be a miracle. And there was. Baker began to flash the talent that made him a #1 pick and savior of Cleveland. Leading the Panthers on an impressive drive, then skying a deep ball perfectly to Robbie Anderson. With Carolina's defense holding firm, Baker Mayfield and Christian McCaffrey dragged this sad batch to something thought impossible mere minutes ago. A lead. Not only if the defense could stop taking penalties and giving up yardage, I'd say a win's assured. But the Browns need to kick a 58-yard field goal with a rookie. Trial by fire, kid.
To try to win the game. The kick. Oh, look at this in distance. And Cade York wins it for Cleveland.
Revenge is best served with a dagger from Cade York. Baker will not get his comeuppance. Despite playing like absolute shit for most of the game, Cleveland escapes from Matt Rhules' basic bitch trap with some sticky tape, a missed call, and a steel leg. If I were you, Browns, run. You stole this one and you know it. And don't forget to send Rhule a gift card to Starbucks or something. We have entered hell. The New York Giants aren't complete ass. Somewhere in the distance, the devil is hosting a boat party and we're all invited to it. It's amazing what a coach that isn't completely useless can do for a franchise. Brian Daboll and Wink Martindale have added elements of tenacity and persistence to all facets of play. The G-Men terrorized Baker Mayfield and company all game. Note that this is without two of their best pass rushers. You can say that the Giants have played an overrated Titans and shitty Carolina, but this team just feels different. They fight and claw for wins. When New York needed plays, they stepped up and made things happen. The Panthers may be dealing with an anchor the size of Matt Rhule, but it's a promising start. All looks bright on the perilous road to 7-10. For the Giants, that's called a breakthrough. Sometimes you have to admit when you were wrong. I was willing to give the Saints a pass for last week's offensive ineptitude because of injuries. What the hell happened here? I get Carolina's defense is nothing to scoff at, but to the point of doing next to nothing against it? Pure offensive failure. There was little else to say besides that. If Alvin Kamara wasn't fumbling away key points, the special teams unit was falling straight to the 7th circle of hell. You don't score any of your own until the 4th quarter, that usually isn't the sign of a successful game. Even with his defense bailing him out for a week, Matt Rhule will sit around and wonder how this is going to benefit their running game. The Saints just can't hope their defense shuts down opponents until their stars get healthy. They need to do something quick, lest another season be lost like dust in the wind. In this fight, we have two absolute morons thinking they're experts in jiu-jitsu, flailing around like it's interpretive dance. Even when you consider these coaches are two of the worst in the league, the unfortunate reality is that they are paid to be incompetent at the national stage. We are not. Therefore, we bitch about them on the internet. Despite not having the money and fame of these men, the Carolina Panthers have proven to be the kings of the shit pile. Matt Rhule makes Hugh Jackson look like Vince Lombardi. It's hard to fathom, but with how terrible Carolina looks, even against an Arizona team that is functionally awful on offense, the claim is justified. What the fuck happened to Baker Mayfield? Did he suddenly morph into Johnny Football once he left Cleveland? Even Christian McCaffrey can't carry these sad sacks to any relevance. The fandom is getting pissed. It's gotten so bad they're clamoring for Sam Darnold at QB. Sam Darnold! Dear God, next week they'll be begging for Cam Newton again. The chance to fire Matt Rhule are flying down from the seats as well. He's honestly lucky that contract he signed is a massive albatross, or else he'd be batted down at the line like a pass from Baker. San Francisco, step right up and receive your free win. With the way Carolina has taken a hatchet to their legs to try and save them from walking, you'd have to be absolute failures to lose here. Considering how Charlotte is supporting this shit stain, it's DEFCON 0. Stadium's a third full and about 3/4 of those in attendance are Niners fans. The Panthers are lucky a college will try to buy Matt Rhule on SeatGeek for about $3 in transaction fees. That school will still be getting ripped off. These past few years have sent the whole organization on a freefall that is a ringing endorsement for relegation. Carolina is fucking dead. All of it. Their offense is as offensive as a man sig-heiling David Tepper in public. I've taken shits that were more productive than this group. You thought you were in hell when Ron Rivera got canned? Oh, it only got so much worse. Took Carolina long enough. Matt, you're completely inept at your job, and your albatross of a contract is no longer justifiable in keeping you around. Have you ever read of Mice and Men? It's time for you to go and tend the rabbits. Preferably with a bullet to the back of the head. I thought this guy was going to be good when they hired him. The way he managed to rebuild broken college programs in Temple and Baylor made him all but a slam dunk in theory. However, now I'm wondering what actually happened at those schools. The Panthers were victims of false advertising. During his reign of error, Rhule treated the offense as his baby, and then proceeded to smash its head into a wall repeatedly. Revolutionary concepts such as the 2-quarterback system. Double the QBs, double the shittiness. He delivered classic hits to the press like comparing himself to Jay-Z for no particular reason, not realizing that he's running the ball well because he has Christian McCaffrey, and scoring more points helps a team to win games. Truly the Socrates of modern football. He honestly should have been fired last year, but that massive contract Carolina signed him to saved him for 9 more months. 12 more than he should have been here. Don't worry, Matt, you'll be off to Nebraska or Wisconsin to be vastly overpaid soon enough. And then he'll fire his offensive coordinator for not running the ball enough without their star runner again. Why the hell is Ben McAdoo still here? We thought that firing Matt Rhule would give this team some semblance of a jolt. Well, we can safely say it did. It zapped the team to yet another death. Steve Wilks is now the interim coach of the Panthers. And somewhere in Arizona, Michael Bidwell and Steve Keim are masturbating furiously for thinking they were justified in canning him after a year. Anyone that has to play Carolina can call it a glorified bye week. The levels of calamity and disarray in the organization are must-watch comedy. The Rams may be ripe for the kill, yet the Panthers went into the fetal position before the opening kickoff. They just had to watch their opponent go off the ledge with PJ Walker driving the bus. This team seriously thinks they can get multiple firsts for an injury-prone Christian McCaffrey? No, the way to get out of Carolina is to turn into Robbie Anderson. He pulled an AB on the sidelines. If AB was a pedestrian talent and lacked a flair for theatrics. These are the modern Panthers. Living hell. The worst part of all this? It's only week 6. You thought things were bad in Carolina? Say goodbye to their best offensive weapon. Christian McCaffrey will no longer have to carry the burden of the entire offense. The Panthers were nice enough to ship him off to the opposite side of the country, so he wouldn't have to be reminded of the horrors he has witnessed. San Francisco is making their all-in push. They've learned from the Rams. Fuck them picks. Their 2nd, 3rd, and 4th this year, next year's 5th, useless. Acquiring McCaffrey will make them the deadliest offense in football. For about 3 quarters. Someone must have forgotten to tell the Niners that CMC is as reliable as Theranos' business plan. The ultimate high-risk, high-reward move. As for Carolina, it's tank time. Pick up another hobby. It's gonna get ugly. I will say that it did get pretty ugly for Carolina's opponent. Against an allegedly great team, they witnessed Tampa Bay completely self-destruct in nearly every facet of play. Somewhere Matt Rhule is crying into a bottle of Chimay Blue. The Panthers look significantly more competent without his influence. Although that could be because the Bucs are looking like ass that stayed out in the sun for way too long. Pure ineptitude that the organization hasn't seen since the Hugh Culverhouse days. I've seen more competence out of the people that wrote the NFL pylon. In fact, they can use this as script material since it's as useless and overpriced as the Bucs are. Completely unable to solve the Panthers' defense, going 2 for 12 on 3rd down. Being gashed on the ground by Madden-generated players like Deontay Foreman and Chuba Hubbard. The Panthers allowed PJ Walker to throw past the line of scrimmage today. And he did well. The Bucs' defense is out of sorts. Tom Brady is using his O-line of backups as a punching bag. And Tampa Bay's implosions become premium comedy to watch. Congratulations, you're automatically Locale of the Week. You were warned, Tom. Father Time remains undefeated. You one-upped Adam Schefter, but was it worth it? The NFC South is a division. An affront to God itself. Tampa Bay had it all but wrapped up by default, but they keep self-destructing when they reach the main menu. They are a terrible football team right now. Anarchy rules over us all. What that means is... Oh, son of a bitch. You do realize all this insanity is making the greatest game lose its luster, right? I might want to do other projects and explore passions of mine, but no, the league has to keep devolving into chaos. I have to sit and watch the Carolina Panthers have a chance at winning the division. The same damn team that's a shit show and a half and fired their terrible coach a few weeks ago. However, since then, PJ Walker beat out the others and led them to humiliating said shitty Tampa squad last week. They can lead the NFC South with a win here. That's how bad this year is. Even the lolcows of the league can lead their divisions. Their opponent? A rebuilding franchise in the Atlanta Falcons. Yes, I said rebuilding. They had traded their franchise face in the offseason, and it was justified as Matt Ryan fell off a cliff in Indianapolis. His career's all but over now, but Atlanta's just beginning. The team drafted 2 elite talents in Kyle Pitts and Drake London, yet barely used them as anything other than downfield blockers. They may be under 500, but that's because the league felt offended by someone touching Tom Brady in the pocket. The Falcons even did their traditional choke in week 1 against the Saints, but they too can lead the division with a win here. thus sets a stage to appease the Chaos Gods. How do we start out? An interception by Mariota. His first one in 3 games. Predictable. Just like Carolina failing fast with a 3-and-out. The struggles are real for Atlanta, but the best is yet to come in this affair. No, it's not this field goal by the Panthers to draw first blood. That would be Atlanta's drive into the second quarter. The so-called Super Mariota slowly chipping away at the last straws of our sanity to do something unprecedented. Throw to Kyle Pitts in the red zone. Unbelievable. The Panthers, however, would not be deterred. Matt Rhules is gone. That means the offense is no longer restricted by the overburdensome weight of his micromanaging. Carolina scores a touchdown to take the lead. Some could say the Panthers can achieve true chaos. But then you remember why they're deep in the shit. A gimme of a pick 6 for Atlanta to take us to the half. This is when the madness slowly begins to cook at Goatsy Stadium. Prep your buttholes. A field goal by Carolina is merely an appetizer. It just needs a little more time to cook in the oven. You can't rush perfection, you know. It would take until the end of the third quarter. But with this screen pass to Tyler Algier, the horns of war had sounded. Touchdown Falcons. Madness would consume the land. With a balanced attack, the Panthers would begin to make progress on Atlanta's defense again. And on a 4th and goal, they push with everything they have and secure a touchdown. The 2-point conversion to tie, also secure. The Falcons choose to respond in kind with blazing offense of their own. See, Atlanta? This is why you throw to Kyle Pitts. Good things happen. Not enough to get a touchdown, but points were scored to regain the lead. If only your defense could hold on in the passing game. DJ Moore and Terrence Marshall gashing the secondary, harkening back to the final days of the Dan Quinn era. With a blazing run by Deontay Foreman, the Panthers retake the lead just as fast as they lost it. Now it's Atlanta's turn to strike with mere minutes left. The pressure is at a fever pitch, while no one in the NFL world notices that Drake London was thrown to. Little would they know, greatness was unfolding before their eyes.
Mariota, complete. It's Demir Bird, inside the 25, the 20, still going. Bird, the former Panther, touchdown!
Demir Bird with the proverbial dagger. Who needs clock management when you can move like that? A celebration was beginning in Atlanta. The Panthers are being eaten alive by the Falcon defense. And their 4th down was unsuccessful. However, Carolina still has 2 timeouts, so this game is far from over. Can they get the first down to kill them off? No. But a field goal has made it all but impossible to come back from. Besides, this is Carolina. No way they're pulling a rabbit out of their ass.
Walker on first down, moving to his left. And now Walker fires downfield, looking for DJ Moore. Oh, it's a diving catch for a Panthers touchdown.
Holy shit, Carolina's gonna win the game. The Falcons can't stop choking for 5 goddamn minutes! And like all things in Carolina, they shoot themselves in the foot. DJ Moore pulled a Dwayne Rudd. He took his helmet off in the celebration when they still need an extra point to tie. Unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. I'd say to keep your emotions in check in this situation, but here's the real stinger. He was off the field when it happened. This shouldn't have been a penalty by rule of law. Although oddly enough, I don't really feel bad. Carolina now has to kick a 47-yard extra point to win.
48-yard extra point attempt by Pinheiro is no good.
Did you really trust them to make it? Of course we're going to overtime. There is no other date with destiny. Atlanta will get their chance to make their rival pay for their sins.
On 2nd down, play action. Mariota going deep, and this pass is picked off.
Did I say sins? I meant to say we remembered C.J. Henderson was drafted ahead of A.J. Terrell. That was a funny day, wasn't it? Good news for Carolina. They can win the game with a chip shot 33-yard field goal.
All right, here we go. Pinheiro from 33 for the win. It is no good.
Eddie Pinheiro. How does he still have a job? There was no snap fuck-up. There was no defensive pressure. You're in a fucking dome. When did he suddenly turn into Roberto Aguayo? Jesus Christ. Now Atlanta can carry us to even more misery. Because we're in a vintage choke-off. Who wants to win? Certainly not anyone watching this. But we will continue on. The clock ticks down as Marcus Mariota is going to end this game all by himself, rushing his way right into field goal range. Honestly, part of me wants Younghoe Koo to miss this. I need to laugh at this game more.
From the right hash, 2 minutes remaining in overtime. From 41 yards out, Koo's kick. It's good.
Oh well, guess we can't have everything go our way for humor's sake. With that, Atlanta Legends legend Younghoe Koo kicks the Falcons to victory. And the prizes that it entails. A 500 record, and the division lead in the NFC South. Luigi wins by doing nothing. The story of Atlanta, and the story of the greatest game in stadium history. We'll ignore college football in this argument. It's for the best. Were you envious of missing it? Good for you. These two teams are playing in Carolina next Thursday. See you then for more torture. When cat skirmish, assertion and hierarchy is determined. In this fight, the Panthers are an insult to the feline family. The only thing funnier than watching Carolina turn into a stuffed mannequin is if they were leading the NFC South doing it. Goddamn Eddie Pinheiro robbed us of brilliant comedy. This offense is hilarious puke. PJ Walker morphed into a puddle of shit so fast you'd think his name was Will Greer. Completely overmatched. If it makes it any better, the defense folded like a deck of cards. Joe Mixon turned into Jim Brown for 60 minutes with 5 TDs. This game was over before kickoff. Walker joined an echelon of greatness. A quarterback rating of 0. Things got so bad that he was benched to the football afterlife for the others. Since he gets a free win, and looked dominant doing so. To be fair, nearly everyone looked solid against Carolina. There was a time where I thought the Falcons had the best chance of winning the NFC South. We do not speak of such traumas. To describe this hell that God has forsaken, it's a lot like the weather. Miserable, bleak, and a relentless downpour of suck. It's an equalizer that even Carolina can pounce on. One where the running game is emphasized thanks to the elements. One where the underrated Deontay Foreman thrives in gashing his opponents. They needed to make sure the game didn't rely on Eddie Pinheiro's leg to win. Fortunately, the Panthers didn't. In an alternate universe, the Falcons wouldn't have pissed away opportunities and would currently be a 9-1 team. In this timeline, they would not drop every potential pick that comes their way. Blame the weather all you want, but it's a brutal loss for a team that was eager to surprise. The only surprise is how Atlanta keeps finding ways to lose. How do you make Carolina look dominant? The PJ Walker Show has been put on hiatus for the time being. Over 8 billion people live in this world, yet all of them will suffer high ankle sprains as QB of the Panthers. This means Baker Mayfield's revenge tour of terror will continue with incredibly disappointing results. Endless screen passes where stagnation is the name of the game. If you told me the Panthers deliberately took a dive for a bag full of cash, I'd honestly believe it. The offense was so lifeless that Jimmy Haslam ran a victory lap by proxy. It was agony on a national stage. Baltimore's offense could also do absolutely nothing whatsoever. The defense was balling out, yet couldn't be otherworldly to bail out Carolina's alleged offensive attack. It took over 3 quarters, but the Ravens eventually figured it out. Eventually. While being carried by the defense. Good news, Carolina! You stopped giving a shit about the Panthers 2 months ago, but it's beneficial. No living being should have to willingly see this kind of shit without being paid to. Every time someone says that the Denver Broncos have reached rock bottom, I have to laugh. Have you people not realized that this is a bottomless pit? The Broncos can only go lower from here. Against a team that's been destroyed since week 5, they were absolutely outclassed in all phases of play. Russell Wilson was hailed as a savior by myself included. Week after week, he has shown us to be a false prophet. A deceiver of the common man as he turns water into corrosive acid. Chef Russ is indeed a talent. It takes a good bit to be outplayed by Sam Darnold. Broncos country was convincingly ushered out of the stadium in the first goddamn half. The Panthers just needed positive steps, and this was one of them. Remember, it can and will get much worse than this, Denver. The defense is yelling at Wilson, and Hackett wouldn't know if a fucking nuclear explosion's going off. That first you're giving to Seattle looks more and more appetizing with every passing week. might be laughing at the Giants, Seattle, but I think the clock's striking midnight on your time as well. It might be for Gino. I hope it's not, but just saying. In a game that looked like a gimme for the Seahawks from the start, they just struggled. The Panthers would go out to the lead early and never let it go. No matter what Seattle did, they couldn't overcome the might of this team. I get Carolina has a very underrated defense, but against Sam Darnold dinking and dunking you to death, at home in front of the 12s, I can't lie, this is brutally disappointing. I never imagined saying this about the damn Seahawks just 3 months ago, but I feel as empty as a man who just got catfished. As awful as the Panthers season has been, they're only a game back of the shittiest division lead in football. Steve Wilkes has them playing surprisingly inspired. Everyone in the NFC South should be 5-8, but then New Orleans had to fucking ruin everything as always. I should give them Locale of the Week again just for this reason alone. The playoff push is reaching its final stages. Only one spot has been clinched by Philadelphia, but 4 weeks remain. Philadelphia obviously has number 1 seed, but the division is still up for grabs. Minnesota, after an ugly loss this past week, is still 2nd seed, and the NFC North is technically secured as well. The torrid pace of the Niners has them starting to run away with the West in 3rd place right now, but the NFC South is best not discussed. Tampa Bay only has it because the division is straight up awful. Meanwhile, Dallas is sitting pretty with 10 wins and first wildcard. After that, it's a mosh pit. Washington and the Giants are currently tied at 7-5-1, and Seattle struggling to maintain form with an easy schedule. Detroit's creeping up though, and don't forget the rest of the garbage in the NFC South still has a chance. The picture will become clearer as time goes on. And as we all know, there's only one rule to follow.
Don't get eliminated!
I have no idea how the hell this keeps happening, but the Carolina Panthers are only 1 game away from leading a division. That's how we know this year has been incredibly fucked. But we can't let the timeline get too chaotic for them. That responsibility will go to many other teams, as seen throughout the past week. Today, in front of a crowd of Pittsburgh transplants, their floundering hopes would be quashed by the Steelers. Their run game would be suffocated and their unsung defense would be pounded to death in kind. This was against an opponent starting Mitch Trubisky. Sam Darnold isn't one to carry a team on his own, especially when TJ Watt's breathing down his neck. Heartbreak for the handful of Panthers fans who are somehow still paying attention to this team. This is probably one of the better games the Steelers have played all year. It would have been nice if they did this in the 6 losses they pissed away. God, this team's gonna bullshit their way to 9-8 and just miss a playoff spot. We've had quite a lot of teams reach playoff land this week, didn't we? It doesn't mean we're anywhere close to settling how things will shake out. Philly still holds number 1 seed and can clinch their division with either a win or Dallas loss. Minnesota and San Francisco both clinched their division since there's no elite team rivaling them in division. It's only positioning they're playing for. They won't have to worry about Tampa Bay. They are ass. And their division is even more ass. Please delete it from our existence. The winner of this shit pile will probably be hosting a playoff game against the Cowboys. And we will wish for death. The other 2 wildcard spots are currently held by the Giants and Commies despite the G-Men winning last week. Seattle is falling hard while Detroit is rumbling back into the picture after being left for dead. Green Bay hangs on by a thread. And so does the rest of the NFC South. This is gonna be quite fucky, isn't it? Everyone left, you know what to say.
Don't get eliminated!
The football gods are cruel bastards. To their eternal punching bags, they will offer morsels of hope. It's okay, Lions fans. This time, we won't crush your hopes in a completely easy situation. We'll allow you to come back from the brink of despair. We'll let your team look like they've greatly improved from their previous form throughout the year. This is your time to shine, they'll say. At this point, they turn the heat up as you slowly boil to death. Against Carolina, the Lions defense regressed to how horrifically shitty they were at the beginning of the year. The Panthers gashed them on the ground for 245 yards. In the first half alone. 570 yards of offense in the game itself, breaking multiple franchise records. Tactical spanking. We expected domination, but not in this form. For as chaotic as their season's been, Carolina has a chance to control their own destiny with a win next week. And Steve Wilkes now has as many victories as interim coach as Matt Rhule did in any season with the team. Seems pretty damning, doesn't it? If It feels the same way for Detroit. With a few big losses this week, the NFL playoff picture has become a mosh pit, as has been written for time eternal. The NFC East is still the same scenario as before. Winning clinch for Philly, and that includes the number 1 seed. If Dallas loses once as well, they are doomed to play as a road team in the wild card. The NFC South is still the division that should not exist, and Tampa Bay can seal it away with a win against the Panthers. If Carolina wins, though, we continue down the chaos timeline. New Orleans is still technically alive, but will need a lot to happen to win the South. With wildcards, Dallas most likely will be headed to the NFC South winner. The Giants still sit comfy, a game ahead of Washington for the second spot, with the Commies taking last seat for now. With Detroit and Seattle both losing last week, Green Bay can bullshit their way to a postseason berth with a few more things happening in their favor. But they need the Lions and Seahawks to keep losing. The Saints can also clinch a wild card, but it's an extreme long shot. But it's a shot nonetheless. And if you have that, you can still chant the Rhules.
Don't get eliminated!
This is the first time where I have felt legitimate disappointment in the Panthers franchise. Hell, it borders on anger. Here, despite all of the chaos and ineptitude that's been on display for them all season, they had a chance to control their own destiny in the playoff race. Tampa Bay was more than ripe for the kill. They've been sleepwalking their way off the cliff of fraudulence all goddamn season. Yet be it by incredible luck or somehow bullshitting their way to pass form at the 11th hour, the Bucs escape what should be their inevitable demise. Guess what, Buttercup? It happened again. For roughly the 5th or 6th time this year, Tampa Bay followed the same script. Look incredibly lethargic and uninspired for a strong majority of the game, and then suddenly find about 15 MacGuffins and Deus Ex Machina your way to a win. Oh, Carolina had an 11-point lead in the 4th quarter. We all know Brady's gonna break his opponent like a Surface tablet. Oh, of course Mike Evans returns to peak form after looking awful all season. Of course he has 3 TDs where he makes the Panthers look awful. Of course he does. Did we really expect anything less? Carolina had the knife pressed against their fucking throat and somehow end up stabbing themselves. The scriptwriters don't want the Panthers doing anything. We can't have any hilarious chaos in this timeline. Sam Darnold just fumbles it because the Bucs defense suddenly becomes godly. Every fucking time. This is another game that just kinda happened. If they simply canceled this game, no one would have noticed. But it's only for draft position and jobs for next season, like all good meaningless games. Both teams are completely lost, adrift after losing their identity. Carolina was dead by week 5, for God's sake. With that alone, it's impressive that the Panthers have a winning record since they fired Matt Rhule. More shocking because it's in spite of themselves. Sam Darnold saw ghosts all game long. 5 for 15, 43 yards passing, and a QB rating near 0, and they somehow won. Their only touchdown was on a fumble recovery. The Saints are so dead on offense that they just said fuck it and checked out. Will Lutz proceeded to miss a field goal late in the game, and that was that. A testament to terrible football. Yet Eddie Pinheiro finally makes a goddamn field goal in a dome to win it. Hilarious irony. Everyone and their mother knew that the Panthers were going to be terrible this season. It was written in stone the moment they chose to keep Matt Rhule around. They were dead men walking from the get-go. A group that couldn't come close to anything resembling success. 1-4 with the team dead to rights. All you can do is swallow the pill that should have been done months earlier. The year was as lost as Baker Mayfield in this offense. Even worse is that the team managed to respond to Steve Wilkes as interim coach. This was in spite of trading their best weapon in Christian McCaffrey. With how pathetic their division was, if they cut bait with Rhule after last season, there's a good chance the Panthers would have hosted a playoff game. The NFC South was that bad. Despite all the bullshit, they still had a chance to do so this year. If they didn't blow it against Tampa Bay, but we can have nothing good in this world, so they must die. Steve Wilkes apparently can't either. David Tepper went after the sexy hire in Frank Reich, which in itself should be a massive upgrade over Rhule. However, there are too many questions that need to be answered in the offseason with not enough resources to do them all. This franchise is at a crossroads. They must choose their course carefully. Failing again will lead to their doom.